I'm going to myth bust all the different techniques that I've heard of that help you control the snails. See? So this one, they call them in Denmark dræbersnegl or svenske skovsnegl, which means the killer snail, or the Spanish forest snail. Oh, it's sliding off my finger. So on this video I'm going to try a few of the different techniques that I've heard about that they say work. I'm going to try with some hair. This is just hair from the hairdresser. I'm going to try with some coffee grounds. This is just from the local coffee shop. And I'm going to try with some sawdust, because I've heard that that works as well. And I'm going to try with salt. And I'm going to use crushed eggshells. And I'm going to try with this copper tape. Last but not least, we're going to try with some grønt, which is beer. And luckily for the Danish people, the beer only costs about $1.50 a bottle. So if you're having problems with snails and you want to control them in your garden, then keep watching this video, because I think we're going to find the best method. We all love our gardens. They're our pride and joy. Little patches of paradise that feed our bodies and soothe our souls. But when sneaky snails slime their way in and nibble through our seedlings and greens, it's downright frustrating. The truth is, snails and slugs aren't all that bad news. Actually, they play important roles in a garden. They break down rotting leaves, dead plants, and decaying organic matter, helping turn it into rich humus that feeds your soil. They recycle nutrients, keeping the soil food web ticking along. Their waste, snail poop, is a natural fertiliser, adding nitrogen and other nutrients back into the soil. Snails and slugs also spread fungal spores and beneficial microbes as they feed, and they're a key food source for birds like magpies, kookaburras and ducks, as well as frogs. Having a few snails around actually supports the chain of life and helps keep your garden ecosystem balanced. So the bottom line is, a few snails and slugs are beneficial. They help recycle, feed the soil and support wildlife. The real problem only comes when they overpopulate, usually because there's too much moisture, plenty of hiding spots and not enough predators. In this video, I'm going to test some of the most talked about ways to deter these slimy intruders. Do they actually work? Or are we just decorating our garden beds for the snails to laugh at on their way to dinner? I took a little trip to Denmark to find out which method really works. Yeah, so I'm just on my way over to the local hairdresser, and I'm going to ask her if she can save some hair for me, and I'll come back in a couple of days. Hej Sheila.
Hej Weedy.
Har du samlet noget hår til mig?
Det har jeg.
Okay.
Det har vi lige her.
Okay, en hel pose af det. Må jeg se?
Ja.
Okay. Alright, mange tak. Hi, hi.
Hi.
So we're going to start the experiment off with the hair, because that's what I heard a lot of. A lot of people say that they don't like to crawl over the hair. And I'm going to lay this hair out in a big square, and to make like a barrier. I'll just get some more hair like that, and we'll lay that out like that. And then I'll put the snails in, and we'll just watch what happens. Oh, look, they're crawling straight over that hair. They don't seem to be worried at all about the hair. Look at this way, he's pushing his way through the hair. Doesn't look like hair is an issue at all for these slugs. This fella here is on his way over. Yep, they're all out, so okay. The hair's been debunked, everybody, so don't try that at home. He's over. It's over. Well, that was the coffee. Obviously that didn't work either, but again, coffee is really good for the compost, so I'll put that on the compost as well. Snails, they love to eat things in your garden. They like to eat the basil. You can see this one's been munched away already by some snails or slugs, so the idea is to try and keep them out of the garden. Okay, so the eggshells, I've broken the eggshells up and I've crushed them up and I've washed them as well. And then I put them in the oven to dry them out. because that makes them a lot easier to spread. See, they're not all sticky together and clumped together. I've got 5 dozen eggshells in here. So what I'll do is I'll make my little border around here with the eggshells. See? I'm wondering if it makes a difference if I've got a wider border, but that's going to take a lot of eggshells. So to keep in par with the rest of the experiment, I would say this one's busted already. Okay, sawdust doesn't seem to work, but it's only softwood sawdust, this one. Maybe hardwood sawdust would be different. With only a few snails remaining in the square, I think it's fair to say that the sawdust has also been busted. Okay, that didn't work either. The coffee didn't work and the hair doesn't work. So this time I'm going to try some salt. And in Danish it's called salt, and it's spelled the same. So I'm going to put a little border of salt around and let's see what happens. This is probably not going to work very well because there's so much grass that they're just going to crawl up over the grass, I think. So now we're using salt, and it's actually a stupid idea because you need so much salt, it's ridiculous. I've used like 1 kilo of salt just on that little square there for my experiment. So that's a lot of salt, a whole kilo of salt for a tiny little area. So this is not panning out very well, I don't think. Also, the other problem is all the grass that sticks up. It kind of makes it kind of easy for them to make a little bridge over it. So if we go over here, so this one here has found a little bridge just by going on top of the grass. See that? Just over the salt. This one here just touched the salt and he's retracted quite quickly. But you know, there's plenty of places for them to crawl over, like these little bridges of grass. In reality, if you're using it in your garden, there's going to be grass sticking up and all sorts of paths for them to cross over. And you have to use a lot of salt. So this one I think is busted as well. Yeah, look, he's over. This one's over. So this one's past the salt barrier. He's on his way out. The salt has come from this direction. But you can see these ones here, they've like touched the salt and then they've recoiled. This one's trying to go over, but there's so much grass that they can kind of find their way over the grass, I think. So it looks like the salt so far is working. Snails do not like salt, but it's not a very smart idea. You need a lot of salt and there's a lot of grass that they can crawl over, and it's really, really bad for the soil in your garden. So I wouldn't suggest using salt. I must admit, I do feel a bit sad for the snails because they're just kind of little creatures doing their thing. Oh well, the salt does kill the snails, but it also kills the grass. Look, can you see where I had the salt on the grass? And all of the salt's gone because it rained quite heavily last night, so that's not going to last very long. They can get over the grass quite easily, but if they do touch the salt, it's quite inhumane, so I wouldn't recommend, and it's just not a good idea to put salt in your vegetable garden. So, last but not least is the copper. I've got some copper tape here, which is sticky on the back. So I'm gonna put that on my little frame here. And this is pretty cheap, by the way, too. It only costs probably about $1.50 a meter. Okay, guys, this is your last little experiment. Well, I think that's pretty disappointing. I've tried all the methods that I've heard of and not one of them has worked so far. Okay, so first attempt of this didn't work because I had the tape on my wooden border like that. So I went down to the nursery and I said, I'd like my money back because this doesn't work. And I showed photos, but they said, no, you have to put it like that. So if you've got your garden bed, made out of wood, right, you have to kind of put it this way, okay? So I've made a new system. I've just got a bucket and I've put it around, you see that I put it kind of around there so they can't crawl up. So that's the next one. That's the next experiment. because I could see they were coming up and they were going to get over it. So I've made it double width. So that seems to be working by the looks of it. Okay, so once you've got control of your snails getting into your garden bed, you've got to deal with the ones that are already in your garden bed. And that's the last method. And that's the beer, all right? And in Denmark, beer is really cheap. It only costs about $1.50 or so a bottle. I just pour my beer in the bag, like so. Okay, and I close it up so the water doesn't get in. And then I just put a little hole. I put a little hole about here, like that, so they can get in. See? And then I just tape that there. So I've got the little hole here, and I want to just put this in the ground, so like this. Okay, so they should be attracted to that, so I'm just going to leave that in the garden for the night and see what happens tomorrow morning. I'm coming out here at night time, and it looks like the snails are on their way into the beer trap. Look, so it looks like it's working, it's attracting them. See, they're coming from all around the garden towards the beer trap. Looks like he's got his head in there. He's heading in. Come back in the morning and see if I've caught him. Look, see, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the night has passed and now it's time to go and check my yeast snail trap, and let's have a look. Look, here it is, with the little hole in top that they can crawl down in. It looks like I've got probably eight snails in there. It's a bit hard to see them because it's all murky, but yeah, there they are, dead snails. The best suggestion I think would be to put copper tape around the outside of your garden bed, probably in a double layer, because some of the big killer snails are quite long, so they can reach over a single layer. Double layer of tape all around. That'll keep the snails out of your garden, and the ones that are left in your garden, then the beer trap or the yeast trap should do the trick. But I do have one last trick. So for the last week or so I've been trying different methods, and most of them have not worked. Okay, but the beer trap and the copper tape seems to do the trick. So I hope you can use these techniques in your garden, so the snails don't eat your leafy greens and leave them up to you to eat, because that's what you planted them for. I do have one more trick that I know works 100%, and that is these. Have a nice day, and I'll catch you later.